Serious. What's a scummy thing a company did, is doing that people should be talking about more? Attention. Serious. Tag notice, jokes, puns, and off-topic comments are not permitted in any comment, parent or child. Parent comments that aren't from the target group will be removed, along with their child replies. Report comments that violate these rules. Posts that have few relevant answers within the first hour, and posts that are not appropriate for the serious tag will be removed. Consider doing an AMA request instead. Thanks for your cooperation and enjoy the discussion. I am a bot, and this action was performed automatically. Please contact the moderators of this subreddit if you have any questions or concerns. DuPont dumping chemicals into the water supply for decades. DuPont's own documentation specified that C8 was not to be flushed into surface waters, but the company did so for decades. The chemical seeped into the water supplies of the communities of Lubrick and Little Hocking, immediately west of Parkersburg, and the city of Belper, Ohio, just across the river, and 3 other water systems. In 2004, DuPont paid $70 million in a class action lawsuit and agreed to install filtration plants in the affected water districts. In 2005, it reached a $16.5 million settlement with the EPA for violations of the Toxic Substances Control Act. A collective decision was made to use the money won in the class action suit to conduct an epidemiological study in which nearly 70,000 of the 80,000 plaintiffs stopped into one of 6 clinics set up throughout the community, provided their medical histories and offered their blood. They were each paid $400. A science panel, comprised of public health scientists appointed by DuPont and lawyers representing the community, was convened to examine the immense database. In 2012, after 7 years of study, the panel released a report documenting a probable link between C8 and 6 conditions: testicular cancer, kidney cancer, thyroid disease, ulcerative colitis, pregnancy-induced hypertension and high cholesterol. In 2015, DuPont spun off its chemical division into a new company called Chemours, which now occupies the Washington Works facility on the Ohio. In 2017, DuPont and Chemours agreed to pay $671 million to settle some 3,500 pending lawsuits. Chemours was cited in 2019 by the EPA for the release of unregulated chemical compounds in West Virginia and North Carolina. C8 was recently found in the blood of polar bears. C8 is in the blood of 99% of the American population. So far, not a single person has been charged with the crime. And just to make sure that you all know that the rich can get away with anything, in 2009, Robert Richards, one of the DuPont heirs, pleaded guilty to raping his daughter. He received no prison time, instead fined $4,395 and promised to attend a high-end treatment facility. At the time, Richards was 6'4" and around 300 pounds. His daughter was just 3 years old. After being released from court, he went back to living on his multi-million-dollar trust fund. The press did not report on any of this at the time. It wasn't until 2014 when his ex-wife sued him for damages for the crime that it all came out. During Richards' treatment, his counselor thought that he wasn't being upfront with him and suggested Richards take a polygraph. The polygraph suggested that Richards had also raped his son. His 8-year probation ended in 2017. Compass Group Corporate Dining. I was a manager at this company, and when the pandemic hit, they changed all sick time and vacation rules so you would not allow you to use your time if on furlough. Basically, they could steal your hours accrued and not pay you, just to save the company money when people needed it the most. I live in a city with sick and safe time laws. I explicitly told our district manager and hours people what they are doing is illegal. I talked to the Office of Labor Standards and recouped $670K for over 600 workers in my city. Fuck them. No one should ever work for those cunts. I bought some Adidas trainers that must have been fake or faulty. They fell apart after just a few months. I've got other Adidas trainers that have lasted many years. which is the reason I bought these shoes in the first place. I also bought a potato masher that bent in half immediately. The feeble thing couldn't stand the might of my boiled potatoes. I could list many more examples of products that have convinced me to stop buying from Amazon. These products all had good reviews too. I swear Amazon will just sell anything now, regardless of whether it's fake and how shit it is. The constant shifting through brands like FunJoy and Ginseng LLC, dozens upon dozens of brands selling and rebranding the exact same product for the exact same price eventually annoyed me enough to where I now typically just use eBay instead of Amazon. If I want a super specific Chinese branded product, for example, something for my handheld retro emulator collection, then I'll use Amazon. But even then the really obscure crap is on AliExpress, where you'll wait 3 weeks for an odd-looking screwdriver set to come in. In February 2021, Bell Media fired large numbers of staff, many of them without notice or warning. Some found out 15 minutes before their show was to go on the air, some radio shows were just changed mid-broadcast, some found out via Twitter they no longer had jobs. This all happened a month after Bell took $122 million in COVID relief despite boosting dividend payments and having strong financial records. Fuck Bell. I hope every hot pocket they bite into is scalding on the edges but still frozen in the middle. I might be biased, but some of the replacements they've hired for media personalities like O'Toole and Natasha just pale in comparison. I know not everyone loved the Jay and Dan show, but it's hard to argue that it's better with just Jay. It isn't. And let's not forget they did this immediately after their Let's Talk campaign ended for the year, a campaign that spotlights mental health. The optics behind this decision, the timing if it, the points you mentioned, all reeks of a boardroom full of execs looking to earn another few pennies per share at the expense of these people. So many corporations are run by truly sadistic sociopaths who just don't give a fuck about anything except short-term gains. Add this to make your blood boil. The Canadian Institute of Actuaries had a long-planned revision to the pension formulation for commuted pensions. It was finally approved in December. Many Canadian corporations use taxpayer money to hold on to that date just to screw those same taxpayers out of well-deserved pensions. The formulation changes cost many $100,000 plus in pension buyouts. I think the evidence is criminal actually. Knowingly conspired to reduce payouts and utilize tax dollars to bridge the gap. Is this illegal? Is it moral or ethical? Any legal gurus here? The same company that has this shitty, disingenuous mental health PR stunt every year. Yes, Bell, let's talk about how awful you are to your employees and your customers. Fucking assholes. Also, fuck Bell for getting the Canadian rights to HBO and HBO Max with their Crave app. I am not paying $20 a month to watch the new Gossip Girl. Fucking vultures. Pretty much every company that delivers mail packages, at least in my area, are marking packages as delivered and then not actually delivering the package that they know they still have, until up to 4 days later. I'm here thinking I should have the package, it was left, but I can't find it, so I have to file a claim. Then the package shows up, so I need to cancel the claim. This is a massive waste of time for everyone. Just stop doing this shit. Deliver the package, then mark it delivered. Look, the last year has been rough and there are all kinds of lingering effects. Fine. I don't care if shit is late. Don't lie to me. I ordered a TV on Amazon from Best Buy to be shipped via FedEx. My husband was literally sitting on the porch when FedEx sent him a text that the package was just delivered. We check around the block and ask our numbers. We call FedEx, who tells us to wait 48 hours before calling again. 48 hours pass and we call again. They say, well, if we said it was delivered then obviously it was delivered. I asked them to see if they could check with the driver. They tell me that because it was a contractor and not a FedEx employee, they couldn't check with him until he got back into the office 4 days later. I filed a complaint with Amazon, who graciously gave a full refund. Even worse, this was the second time I have had an expensive electronic device go missing in a truck driven by a contractor. Fuck FedEx. Frito-Lay union workers on strike in Mississippi. 12-hour shifts/7 days a week, a suicide shift, off at 11, back at 7, and bad faith bargaining, 0.10 raise year 1, no raise year 2, 0.10 raise year 3, and this is after no raises for 7 years. CEO is one of highest paid. Apparently the striking workers miss their families and wish the company treated them like humans, not robots. I don't work there, but I support their cause. This is not just in Mississippi. I worked at Frito-Lay in Washington and it was the worst job I ever had. I worked 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you could work until 3 a.m. and be brought back in early the next day. The only good part about it was that I was making overtime after 8 hours. Overall, it just was not worth it. I wore steel-toe boots for so long that I had terrible infections and my work area regularly went over 100 degrees Fahrenheit and we had to wear work pants, bump caps, and steel-toe boots. This was seriously the worst job I ever had. It was also incredibly unsafe. In the short time I was there, 2 people lost their fingertips, one guy almost lost his whole hand, parts would fall from above, we had rats. It was super nasty and dirty, and they fell due to faulty equipment that I had reported, and the company refused to pay for the surgery I needed on my wrist after I fell. Dental assistant here. It is common in many dental practices for hygienists, the people who clean your teeth every 6 months, to be paid per patient, not an hourly rate. What this inevitably leads to is hygienists treating patients for significantly less time than the recommended standard. It should take roughly 45 minutes to an hour for a proper teeth cleaning. The dental office I previously worked at proudly advertised a 20-minute cleaning for adults, something that might seem convenient for those not knowing that they're literally getting fucked over. Keep an eye at how long your hygienist visit takes each time, and if they're whipping you in and out of there in 20 minutes, please consider finding a new dentist. Dentistry is one of the only medical fields where a quick visit is usually a poor visit. I shadowed a DH as part of the requirements to get into the dental hygiene program, and one day they had a scrum-type meeting. The dentist was basically telling all the staff to upsell teeth whitening treatments etc., and he went over the daily revenue so far and what their goal revenue was for that day. He almost said, "I don't want my time wasted coming in for patients who aren't going to have work done." He had a rating system 1-3 of how likely people were to getting more services done that day. It was just a huge eye-opener that this dentist was making his staff treat patients like dollar signs. Back when I worked at Logan's Steakhouse, they didn't get me into the computer the whole week I trained. They told me to write my times down and turn them in daily, so I did. I get my first check and the 30 hours I train aren't there, only my serving hours at $2.13. I complained for months and they say they can't give it to me all at once, as that would put me in overtime and make it time and a half on the training base pay. They say they'll have to just add a few hours to each check. I reluctantly agree, except this doesn't even happen. Others have the same thing happen. Kitchen employees were being forced to clock out at 10 whether or not they were done working, and may have to stay till 11 or 12. Years later this becomes a lawsuit known as the off-the-clock class action suit against Logan's. I sign up and the attorney tells me there is zero record of me ever working there, even using my SSN and store number. Fuck Logan's. Plenty of entry-level labor jobs have production incentives to offset their low wages, suppress worker rights, and keep the workforce divided. These have a long-term effect of lowering wages, allow the company to flexibly increase quotas and terminate sick, exhausted staff, and diminish company morale. Even if you're a top-shelf earner, you're going to earn less in 10 years than someone in a similar plant with no productivity bonuses, while working harder and in worse conditions on average. Ah yes, the Wednesday to Tuesday work week, and then your boss gives you Wednesday and Thursday off, then you work Friday to Tuesday and then Wednesday to Sunday the following week. You get no what? Still have 4 days off, but they're just separated by 10 days of work. I also had a job once that the internal scheduling system would not allow you to be scheduled for more than 8 days in a row without a day off. But they scheduled me for 8 days and a day off and then 8 more days, then penciled me in my day off. Best part is I got zero at that entire time. The way the work week was separated plus the shuffle of 4 6-hour shifts kept me right at 40 hours. The Resnick family, specifically Wonderful, almonds, pistachios, pomegranates, etc., and Fiji water. Wonderful has essentially created a monopoly on these products, stopped them import of superior alternatives in their control of the market, and are sequestering and using millions of gallons water to do so despite California water restrictions. Then with Fiji they're essentially using slave labor to take an insane amount of a small nation's fresh water, not properly purifying it and then marketing it as top of the line. Colorado recently passed a law that requires employers to list pay rates with job postings. It has led to some companies excluding Colorado residents from applying for positions. Interestingly enough, when it became active and I saw my position posted, and opened one, and saw I was in the bottom of the pay scale, I was secretly fuming. Until I out of nowhere got a huge raise within 2 weeks. I think my company did some quick and smart assessments. Amazon actually kills small businesses, and I know this firsthand from working in logistics. There are a number of small businesses out there who make their products in China, and use Amazon Marketplace to get their feet off the ground and push tons of inventory hoping to make it big. Lo and behold, the moment an item starts getting big, Amazon will take that item, manufacture it in their own warehouse, brand it as Amazon Basics, and then will sell it literally for a fraction of the cost, completely cutting the small business out of the equation and making it impossible for them to sell their inventory just because their prices are so low. I keep seeing an Amazon commercial wherein they're filleting themselves because workers can get a $1 raise a year, so their employees can support small businesses, because Amazon supports small businesses. Isn't that great? /s. Fuck off with that shit. When you're killing entire communities because you drive real estate prices sky high, you work your employees to death, and you're killing small businesses in droves that would make the Waltons jealous. Disney was in a couple fights with Barbie, Mattel over the various Barbie fairy tale, public domain, Princess and the Pauper, Rapunzel, Three Musketeers, etc. stories and movies. It's actually a big part of why Barbie doesn't make those movies anymore, instead opting for more original content. Ironically, the Barbie Rapunzel movies, which came out many years before Tangled, has quite a number of similarities outside of what should be expected for a fairy tale adapted movie. There are some really odd intersecting laws going into some of these decisions. There's an expectation that they will file some of these trademarks and lose in court, but it's to certify that they're defending the trademarks they do rightfully own, like the characters and specific art created for the projects. If someone can argue in here that you've failed to defend a trademark, you lose control of it, and then it's free pickings. If Disney wants to maintain their control over what they reasonably own, they have to overreach because of the current legal environment. Even when they expect to lose those parts, then they can say, look, we applied for trademark of literally everything in the movie and this is what the court said is ours, and everything that isn't, you can't touch our stuff now. The worst part about Amazon is there's actually a huge underground market for negative Amazon reviews. People put them on their competitors and you just can't get rid of them once they hit. I run a business through there and we got like 4 reviews overnight. The accounts had no other reviews, and they got like 1,000 upvotes overnight as well. Our listing was killed. Our thousands of good reviews didn't matter because everyone saw the 1 stars all from the same day at the top, and Amazon refused to do a thing. Companies across the globe have been caught in the spotlight for their questionable practices and scandals, from the Coca-Cola Company to the Wells Fargo Company. Many companies are being scrutinized for their corporate practices. One controversial company is Amazon, which recently drew attention when it was discovered that the company was producing private, secret, and undisclosed deals with other companies to the benefit of only one company. This is just one example of Amazon's behavior that is raising questions. No one has said Wells Fargo? Their issues are numerous, but the fake account one is the main one. Capitalism keeps forcing them to grow, But at a certain point everyone that needs an account has one. When you set ridiculous new account quotas for your employees and don't let them leave for the day if they don't meet quota, you're asking for fraud. Managers and execs knew fraudulent accounts were getting opened, but it helped them meet their quotas.